Nobody expected this to happen, not after years of quiet tension, not after all the subliminal shots, and definitely not after Drake just dropped the most aggressive project of his entire career. But now, the internet believes Jay-Z has finally had enough. Because what started as cryptic bars on Drake's explosive new album Iceman is suddenly spiraling into something much bigger than a rap beef. Fans are now convinced Drake didn't just diss Jay-Z, they think he exposed him. And according to people close to the industry, that crossed a line nobody thought Drake would ever dare touch. For years, Jay-Z was viewed as untouchable, the billionaire mogul, the silent kingmaker, the man who moved behind the scenes while younger rappers fought in public. But Drake's new lyrics changed the conversation overnight. Across multiple tracks, Drake appeared to accuse hip-hop's old guard of benefiting from his success while abandoning him during the darkest moment of his career. And listeners immediately connected those bars directly to Jay-Z, especially after Drake mocked the famous $500K or dinner with Jay-Z debate, questioned industry loyalty, and hinted that certain powerful figures secretly turned their backs on him during the Kendrick Lamar war. But here's where things get dangerous. Jay-Z isn't staying silent anymore. Because after Drake's triple album drop sent social media into complete chaos, old interviews, cryptic comments, and insider reports suddenly started resurfacing online. And fans believe Jay-Z already responded before the album even came out. Now people are dissecting every word, every interview, every lyric, trying to figure out whether hip-hop's most powerful billionaire is preparing to go to war with the biggest streaming artist on the planet. And honestly, if this confrontation becomes public, the entire rap industry could split in half. Everybody expected Drake to throw shots at Kendrick. People expected bars for Rick Ross, DJ Khaled, maybe even LeBron James. But nobody expected Drake to go after the one man the entire music industry treats like untouchable. Jay-Z wasn't supposed to become a target, especially not like this, not across multiple songs. Not with bars that fans immediately started decoding as direct attacks on his power, his influence, and the way he allegedly moves behind the scenes. And the craziest part? Drake didn't sound scared at all. For years, the relationship between Drake and Jay-Z was built on this weird mixture of respect, competition, and silent tension. Jay-Z gave Drake one of his earliest major cosigns back in 2009. Drake looked up to him, studied him, modeled parts of his career after him. But somewhere along the way, admiration slowly turned into resentment. And now fans believe Iceman was Drake finally unloading years of frustration all at once. The line that exploded across social media faster than anything else came from Whisper My Name when Drake mocked the entire dinner with Jay-Z or $500K debate. Instead of treating Jay-Z like some legendary mastermind with life-changing wisdom, Drake basically dismissed the whole idea. He implied the money was worth more than anything Jay-Z could teach him. And people instantly understood what that really meant. That was not just a joke. That was Drake publicly rejecting Jay-Z's authority. And insiders are saying that hit harder than any regular diss record because Jay-Z's entire image is built around being the untouchable elder statesman of hip-hop. He's the billionaire mogul, the industry kingmaker, the guy artists still seek validation from. But Drake's message was brutally clear. I don't need your approval anymore. That's why this situation suddenly became dangerous. Because according to fans online, Drake wasn't just exposing old tensions. He was exposing how isolated he felt during the Kendrick Lamar war. While Kendrick was being celebrated everywhere, Drake reportedly felt abandoned by people he once considered allies. And one of the biggest names attached to that feeling was Jay-Z himself. Remember, Jay-Z publicly praised Kendrick's Super Bowl performance right after the Drake feat dominated the culture. To most people, it looked harmless, professional even. But to Drake supporters, it felt like the industry officially picking sides. And Drake clearly never forgot it. That's why listeners believe bars on Iceman weren't random anger. They were calculated payback. But then came the moment that made everybody stop scrolling. Because Jay-Z finally responded. Jay-Z's response did not come through a diss track. That's what shocked people the most. Jay-Z didn't jump on Instagram Live, he didn't tweet, he didn't run to a podcast. Instead, fans started revisiting his old GQ interview from earlier this year, and suddenly every single word sounded completely different after Drake's album dropped. Because now people believe Jay-Z already knew this storm was coming. In that interview, Jay-Z talked about the Kendrick and Drake war in a way that instantly rubbed Drake fans the wrong way. He acted detached from the entire situation. Calm, untouchable, like the battle happening around him was beneath him. And one specific line became the center of the controversy. "I'm f***ing Hov." That line exploded again online after Iceman released. Fans interpreted it as Jay-Z basically reminding Drake who really holds power in the industry, not Kendrick, not Drake, him. And once people went back and listened carefully, they started noticing something even more uncomfortable. Jay-Z never actually defended Drake during the biggest public humiliation of Drake's career. He talked about rap battles hurting the culture. He said social media fallout had gone too far. But he never directly stood beside Drake when the entire internet was dancing to Not Like Us. To Drake supporters, that silence spoke volumes. And suddenly, lyrics on Iceman started sounding less like random shots and more like years of bottled-up bitterness finally exploding. Especially the bars about old heads benefiting off his name while refusing to publicly support him when things got ugly. Fans immediately connected that to Jay-Z. But then another twist hit the internet. People began resurfacing the history between them, and it painted a completely different picture than the polished mentor and student narrative fans always believed. Because beneath the collaborations and public respect, there had always been tension simmering underneath. Back in 2010, Drake already hinted that idols eventually become rivals. At the time, most people ignored it. But now, fans think Drake was warning everyone years ago that he never planned to stay under Jay-Z's shadow forever. Then came the old Rolling Stone interview where Drake criticized rappers who relied too heavily on art references and billionaire aesthetics. Most people now believe that was secretly aimed at Jay-Z too. Even though Drake tried to soften the backlash later, the damage was already done. And that's when social media started asking the big question, was Jay-Z quietly blocking Drake behind the scenes this entire time? The conspiracy theories exploded overnight. Some fans pointed at the Super Bowl situation. Others brought up how many major industry figures suddenly distanced themselves from Drake after the Kendrick battle. Rick Ross, LeBron, DJ Khaled. Even people Drake publicly supported for years suddenly looked cold toward him. And according to online speculation, Drake reached Drake a break point. That's why Iceman feels different. This wasn't just another rap album full of sneak disses. This sounded personal, angry, almost paranoid at times. Like Drake truly believes the industry elite turned their backs on him the second he became vulnerable. And in Drake's mind, Jay-Z sits at the center of that power structure, which explains why the $500K over dinner line hurts so badly. Drake wasn't only rejecting Jay-Z's wisdom, he was rejecting the entire idea that Jay-Z still controls the culture. That is a massive statement in hip-hop because for nearly 2 decades, artists treated Jay-Z almost like rap royalty. His approval mattered, his connections mattered. His influence could open doors nobody else could open. But Drake's album basically said something nobody at Drake's level had dared to say publicly before. I don't need you anymore. And insiders claim that message is exactly why tensions behind the scenes are now boiling over. The situation went from rap tension to full-blown industry chaos when fans started dissecting one specific pattern across the entire Iceman album. It wasn't just that Drake mentioned Jay-Z once or twice. It was the way he kept returning to themes of betrayal, power structures, fake alliances, and people hiding behind influence instead of loyalty. That's when people realized this album might not just be about Kendrick Lamar at all. Fans began calling Iceman Drake's industry exposure tape. And suddenly, every old interview, every old lyric, every awkward public interaction between Drake and Jay-Z started resurfacing online again. Clips from years ago were going viral with millions of views overnight. One moment especially caught everyone's attention. Drake talking about how lonely success becomes when powerful people stop seeing you as an artist and start seeing you as competition. At the time, nobody thought much about it. Now people think he was talking about Jay-Z the entire time. Then insiders added even more fuel to the fire. According to multiple entertainment blogs and online discussions, Drake allegedly became furious after realizing just how many influential figures stayed publicly neutral during the Kendrick War, while privately celebrating Kendrick's dominance. And Jay-Z's name reportedly came up constantly in those conversations because of his relationship with the NFL, the Super Bowl, and his enormous influence across the business side of music. Fans immediately connected that to Kendrick performing at the Super Bowl while Drake was getting destroyed online by Not Like Us memes every single day. To Drake's supporters, the optics looked brutal. Kendrick wasn't just winning the rap battle. He was being elevated institutionally, while Drake was becoming the internet's punching bag. And in their eyes, Jay-Z helped legitimize that shift. That's why one of the most talked about moments on Iceman became Drake's bars about people running to powerful figures for validation while he stood alone. Those lines hit differently once listeners viewed the album through the lens of betrayal instead of ego. But then came the reveal that truly sent social media into meltdown mode. Fans discovered that several people connected to Jay-Z's inner circle had allegedly unfollowed or distanced themselves from Drake quietly over the past year. On their own, those details seemed small, but combined with the album lyrics, people started building a narrative that Drake genuinely believes he was iced out behind closed doors. The phrase "industry exile" started trending among fans. And the craziest part? Jay-Z still wasn't directly responding. That silence became louder than any diss track. Because in hip-hop, silence from someone that powerful can feel more disrespectful than screaming back. Drake was dropping 43 songs, firing at almost everybody in the industry, while Jay-Z continued moving like none of it even mattered. Performing, expanding business deals, preparing anniversary concerts, acting completely untouched by the chaos. To some people, that made Jay-Z look powerful. To others, it made Drake look even more dangerous. Because now, fans believe Drake has nothing left to lose. And once people started thinking that, the theories became even crazier. Some listeners became convinced Drake purposely released 3 albums at once to overwhelm the entire industry conversation before anyone could control the narrative. Others believe he strategically targeted Jay-Z because he represents the final gatekeeper Drake wants to dethrone publicly. Remember, Drake already went at Kendrick Lamar, Rick Ross, DJ Khaled, A$AP Rocky, and several others. But Jay-Z sits above all of them symbolically. Going after him feels like Drake declaring war on the entire old guard of hip-hop. And then another layer got added to the drama. People started revisiting Jay-Z's own history. Fans pointed out that Jay-Z built his legacy partly through rap battles himself, the Nas feud, Takeover, Super Ugly, all of it. So when Jay-Z suddenly started talking about rap battles being bad for the culture after Drake got publicly embarrassed, some fans viewed it as hypocrisy. That criticism spread fast, especially among younger fans who already feel like the older generation only praises competition when they're the ones winning it. Now social media is split directly down the middle. One side says Drake sounds bitter, isolated, and reckless. The other side says Drake is finally exposing how fake industry loyalty really is. And sitting right in the middle of all this is Jay-Z, refusing to fully engage while the internet tears apart every word both men have said for the last 15 years. But behind the scenes, insiders claim this story is affecting more than just music. Because executives, artists, and even athletes are reportedly watching carefully to see who the culture sides with next. The reaction to the Drake versus Jay-Z situation was immediate, explosive, and completely divided. Within hours of Iceman dropping, social media turned into a battlefield. Every platform was flooded with debates, reaction videos, live stream breakdowns, lyric analyses, and conspiracy threads trying to decode what Drake was really trying to say. And the generational divide became impossible to ignore. Older hip-hop fans largely sided with Jay-Z. They viewed him as a legend who had already cemented his place decades ago. To them, Drake attacking Jay-Z looked emotional and unnecessary. Many argued that Jay-Z had already evolved beyond rap beefs, and that Drake sounded obsessed with proving himself to people whose approval he supposedly no longer cared about. But younger fans saw the situation completely differently. A massive portion of Drake's supporters believed he was finally saying what many artists secretly feel, that the music industry protects certain powerful figures while abandoning others the second controversy hits. They argued that Drake carried the rap game commercially for over a decade, only to watch major industry names quietly distance themselves during the Kendrick Lamar war. And once that narrative caught fire, it spread everywhere. People began revisiting every public interaction from the last 2 years, every award show moment, every interview, every concert appearance. Fans scrutinized who stood beside Drake publicly and who stayed silent. Some even accused celebrities of switching sides simply because supporting Kendrick became the safer cultural move. That's when the LeBron James backlash intensified again. Videos of LeBron James dancing to Not Like Us resurfaced all over social media after Iceman dropped. Drake fans called it betrayal from someone who had publicly called Drake family for years. Others defended LeBron, saying he was just enjoying a hit song and that Drake was taking things too personally. Either way, the damage was done. Then DJ Khaled started trending after fans noticed Drake's subtle shots about people going silent when he needed them most. Khaled had once treated Drake like his biggest superstar collaborator, but during the Kendrick War, fans noticed he avoided publicly defending him. That silence suddenly looked suspicious after Iceman. Even Rick Ross got dragged back into the conversation as fans revisited his fallout with Drake. Old interviews, old Instagram posts, and old diss records started circulating again as listeners built timelines, showing how many relationships around Drake collapsed after 2024. And through all of this, Jay-Z stayed almost eerily calm. That calmness became its own headline. Some people praised Jay-Z for refusing to lower himself into online chaos. Others said his silence felt calculated, almost like a power move designed to remind everyone that he didn't need to respond directly because his status already spoke for itself. But not everybody in the industry remained quiet. Several media personalities began openly discussing whether Drake was entering his villain era. Podcasts exploded with debates about whether Iceman was genius-level honesty or career self-destruction. Some argued Drake sounded more focused and lyrically dangerous than he had in years. Others said the project revealed a superstar becoming increasingly paranoid and isolated. One entertainment commentator summed it up perfectly when they said, "Drake doesn't sound like someone chasing approval anymore. He sounds like someone keeping score." That quote went viral almost instantly. Meanwhile, fans started obsessing over the possibility of a direct Jay-Z response. Every cryptic post from anyone connected to Rock Nation became headline news. Every performance lyric was analyzed. Every interview clip turned into evidence for another theory. And then came the biggest reaction of all. People inside hip-hop started admitting that Drake may have permanently changed how younger artists view industry loyalty. Because whether fans agree with him or not, Drake exposed something uncomfortable. The moment an artist becomes vulnerable publicly, relationships in the industry can change very fast. Alliances shift. Silence becomes political. Neutrality starts looking personal. That's why this situation feels bigger than a normal rap beef. It's not just Drake versus Jay-Z anymore. It's becoming a conversation about power, loyalty, influence, and who truly controls the culture behind the scenes. And according to insiders, the tension is only getting worse. Just when people thought the situation could not get any more intense, another shocking theory started spreading across the internet. Fans began wondering if Jay-Z had actually been warning Drake for years without anybody realizing it. Suddenly, old Jay-Z lyrics started resurfacing online. People were digging through interviews, performances, and verses looking for hidden shots that may have been aimed at Drake long before Iceman ever existed. And one thing became clear very quickly. This relationship may have been broken far longer than fans understood. Because underneath the collaborations and public smiles, there was always competition. Drake was never just another artist to Jay-Z. He was the first rapper since Wayne's era who became so commercially dominant that he started threatening the balance of power itself. Streaming numbers, chart records, global influence, cultural relevance. Drake wasn't chasing the throne anymore. He became big enough to challenge the entire system around it. And according to fans online, Jay-Z may have quietly recognized that years ago. That's why people are now obsessing over the timing of everything. Drake waited until after the Kendrick Lamar war, after the public humiliation, after the industry fallout, after watching former friends distance themselves, before finally unloading all this frustration at once. Which raises a dangerous question. Was Iceman Drake's revenge album? Because the project doesn't sound like someone trying to rebuild friendships. It sounds like someone exposing names, cutting ties, and daring the entire industry to respond. And the scariest part for some fans is that Drake still might not be finished. Several listeners believe there are hidden references on the album people still haven't decoded yet. Others think Drake intentionally layered multiple meanings into certain bars so they would continue generating controversy for months. Every day, another lyric trends online, another theory emerges. Another celebrity name gets dragged into the discussion. The album has become bigger than music. It now feels like a live public unraveling of relationships that shaped hip-hop for over a decade. Meanwhile, Jay-Z continues moving in complete silence. No direct diss track, no explosive interview, no public anger, just silence. But in hip-hop, silence from someone that powerful can sometimes mean confidence or calculation. Because insiders claim Jay-Z has been paying very close attention to the reaction online. And with major performances, anniversary celebrations, and high-profile appearances still ahead this year, fans are now watching every single move he makes for hidden responses to Drake. One cryptic line during a concert, one interview answer, one freestyle verse. That's all it would take for this Cold War to explode into something much bigger. And then came the final twist nobody expected. Instead of losing momentum after the controversy, Iceman became even bigger. Streams surged, clips flooded TikTok, reaction channels exploded in views. Debate after debate kept pushing Drake back into the center of the culture, despite everything that happened in 2024 and 2025. Which means Drake may have pulled off something dangerous. He turned public backlash into attention again. Now the industry is facing a situation nobody predicted. The artist many people thought was finally losing cultural dominance suddenly looks energized by conflict again. Angry, focused, unfiltered. Almost like the pressure transformed him instead of destroying him. And that changes everything. Because if Drake truly no longer cares about approval from Jay-Z, Rock Nation, critics, or the old guard of hip-hop, then there may be nothing left stopping him from going even further next time. The mentor-student relationship is dead. The respect feels shattered. And now the entire music world is waiting to see whether Jay-Z finally responds directly or whether Drake decides to escalate this war even further on his own. Because after Iceman, one thing is painfully clear. This story is nowhere near over. And honestly, this might be one of the biggest power shifts hip-hop has seen in years. Drake didn't just throw random bars on an album. Fans believe he deliberately challenged the influence of Jay-Z, the same man many people consider untouchable in the music industry. And whether you think Drake sounds bitter or brutally honest, one thing is undeniable. Everybody is paying attention again. The internet is completely split right now. Some fans think Drake finally exposed how fake industry loyalty really is. Others believe he's crashing out after the Kendrick Lamar situation and burning every bridge he has left. But the biggest question still hasn't been answered. Will Jay-Z stay silent, or is he waiting for the perfect moment to strike back? Because if Hov decides to respond directly, this could instantly become the biggest rap conflict since Jay-Z versus Nas. And if Drake keeps escalating the way he did on Iceman, there's no telling which celebrities, athletes, executives, or former friends could get dragged into this next. So now I want to hear from you. Do you think Drake was right to expose Jay-Z and the industry? Or do you think he's going too far and destroying relationships he can never repair? And most importantly, if Jay-Z finally responds, who do you think wins this war? Drop your thoughts in the comments right now, because this situation is getting crazier by the day. And if more hidden disses, surprise responses, or industry leaks start surfacing, you already know we're covering all of it here.